When Soviet troops withdrew from Afghanistan in 1994, an outfit under Mullah Muhammad Umar emerged in Kandahar calling themselves Taliban. For a group that means students in Pashto language, the irony of their name itself isn't lost on anyone.
Rapidity of the Taliban advance has surprised everyone. Uh, the fact that more resistance was not put up by the Afghan National Army and security forces has also been a matter of surprise. But in the longer term sense, this was only a, we are reaching the final stages of a process which had begun earlier. And it really began about 2 years ago when the Taliban had established that it is a formidable force on the ground and no party can ignore it.
Taliban basically are Afghans. These were part of the Mujahideen groups which fought Soviet Union. So, there were different groups which were supported by Pakistan and, of course, later America, Saudi Arabia. To many of the former Mujahideens, which included Mullah Baradar, who you hear about every day these days, and Mullah Omar, to form a group called Taliban. So they were seen as a great force of unity and peace. They wanted to go and make these Mujahideen leaders fighting for Kabul see reason. Obviously, but they needed support. So when they all started in Kandahar, where Mr. Mullah Omar, after his fight with Soviets, jihad, had come back and he was preaching in a small mosque. Then it's history. 1996, they did win over Kabul. They drove away the Mujahideen and Rabbani government, which receded into Kunduz, which was in news recently. And they more or less controlled 90 to 95% of the territory. And they also declared their own government of Taliban.
Taliban captured Kabul in 1996, and in their 5 years, they enforced strict sharia law. They barred women from studying and working. They were asked to confine to their homes and told not to step out without a male companion. They banned foreign books and films. Public executions and floggings were common. Taliban is back in control now and wants to restore Sharia once again.
Objective number one is power. If you just remove all the religion, all the international support and geostrategic support, at one level, this is just a power grab. In a democracy, political parties act in a similar manner. They all work towards getting power, except that the means are very different. Here they have relied on violence and terror, which has basically been couched in religious terms. On Sharia law, they have been very adamant that it will be implementation of Sharia. They have also been very adamant on which school of Islamic jurisprudence they will use, which was also a great debate at Doha, because Afghanistan follows different schools and the Shias follow different. I think they are believers in Hanafi school of Islam. So they only wanted that to be the basis of the constitution. They also want to call it Islamic Emirates, which by itself is nothing objectionable, because there are other emirates. You have United Arab Emirates. In its own history, Afghanistan was called Emirate of Afghanistan. Their kings were called emirs. So that is not the problem. The problem is how we interpret this emirate and what are the laws that you implement. And there, I think, we will see lots of difficulties. It may not affect us directly, but it's definitely going to impact the Afghan people.
When the Taliban was in power in the 90s, only 4 countries recognized them. This included Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Turkmenistan. UN and US had put sanctions on them. In the present scenario, most countries show little sign of recognizing the Taliban diplomatically. But China has indicated it may recognize Taliban. Now Russia also seems to be comfortable with them. So the question arises, where do they get weapons and funds?
When they started, I think their support was coming mainly from foreign countries. That included Pakistan substantially, charities raised through madrasas and openly in Pakistan society, because you know there is this great belief that you have to contribute to a jihad, no matter where it is happening in the world. So then, a lot of private individuals from the Gulf, from Saudi Arabia, etc., also contributed. It is also recorded that Taliban had fundraisers, that there were some leaders who were very good in fundraising, and they used to travel in the Gulf countries, approaching rich Arabs who found that even when the states had stopped funding directly, they had not put a stop on private charities. And since this was marketed as a jihad, it was a holy cause for which many individuals contributed. So that was one part. Second part was, of course, as their influence grew in southern Afghanistan, which is the poppy growing area. So in Helmand, in parts of Kandahar, etc., which all border Pakistan, poppy growing became a major fundraiser.
Presently, there are four prominent leaders who take decisions about the functioning of the group. Mullah Habatullah Akhundzada. He was appointed as the supreme leader of the Taliban in 2016. He is the ultimate authority on religious, political, and military affairs. Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar. Baradar is a founder member of the Taliban. He heads the political office of the Taliban. He was part of the team negotiating for a political settlement and signed the withdrawal agreement with the Americans. Sirajuddin Haqqani. He is the leader of the Haqqani Network, a US designated terror group. Mullah Yaqub. Yaqub is the son of Taliban founder Mullah Omar. He oversees the military operations of the group. Believed to be in his early 30s, Yaqub is the leader of the overall movement, but he proposed the name of Akhundzada as supreme leader. With the appointment of Yaqub and Baradar, there are talks of a Taliban that is more moderate than the Taliban that ruled Afghanistan from 1996 to 2001. But there are still unverified reports coming in of women and children being picked up from the street to become wives of Taliban fighters.
Both these categories are already vulnerable, and I think they will have very tough time. Women for a different reasons, because they will see suddenly that all their rights disappear. Already there are reports that in terms of the parda and other things have already come in place, but they will also lose the right to go and work and have any independent voice. Children will suffer basically of Taliban's very regressive ideas on education itself. And even if they allow children to go, if they insist on only a very well-defined madrassa education, which does not focus on modern sciences, ultimately it will have a long-term impact on Afghanistan.
Now the Taliban is in control of Afghanistan. What happens there will impact the geopolitics of the whole region. TOI Online Report.